Hello. So today I wanted to do a solo podcast, and it's going to be on things that I learned about relationships from my father and some of my close friends' fathers growing up. I thought it'd be a really interesting episode because there's a lot of women today that are growing up without fathers and they're trying to navigate relationships without that male perspective. And maybe they're getting information that's incorrect or misleading. And I just want to give another perspective. So take it as you will, accept it, don't accept it. These are just things that I was told and that I believe are helpful for a young woman to know. And if you don't agree with them, that's perfectly fine. This is going to piggyback on my podcast with Ali Drummond, The Real Femme Sapien. So I'm going to put a link to that in the description box below. So it's going to talk about at the end of that podcast, the first thing that my father always told me, and that is don't accept expensive gifts and don't be for sale. And I'm going to go into that more on her podcast, and I highly recommend you check that out because that is the number one thing that my father always told me, and I think it's the number one thing that women today are not understanding and not being told. And I do explain why a little bit more on that. So just head over to there, listen to that, and then come right back here and finish this episode. Okay, number two thing that my father always told me was be deaf, but not dumb. So you never listen to what they say. You have to watch what they do. If a guy really loves you and cares about you as more than something he wants to have sex with, he's going to pay more attention. He's going to remember things, your likes, your dislikes for later. He's going to put you first. You're going to be the Saturday night date, not the Tuesday night date or the lunch date, not the last minute date. He's going to make sure ahead of time that he sees you, and that is actions. He's not just going to tell you what you want to hear. Always watch out for people who tell you what you want to hear. And to avoid narcissists, don't say what you want exactly up front, because a narcissist will pretend and say they're those things up front to trick you. And then they're going to take it away so that you want that fix and then you keep going towards them. That's a manipulation thing. But pay attention with your eyes. If his actions start changing, pay attention. In the beginning, pay attention. But if they're too good, still worry that later on things are going to change once he thinks you're hooked. One thing was that my husband is very similar to my dad, and as far as the fact that he'll remember things years later that I said. If I'm like, oh, I really like this car, my dad would get it for me when I turned 16, like 10 years later or something like that, like ridiculous things like that. Like they pay attention. And my husband found out that I was lactose intolerant. I'm not anymore, but at the time I was. So he would get me those pills and he would put them in his pocket or put them out on the dining table if we were ever going to have dairy, because he knew I was going to have it anyways. And those are very little small things. That's not like taking you on an expensive vacation. That's not showering you with gifts. That's not anything shallow. It's something meaningful that matters in day-to-day life. He cares about the little things. Okay, number three is dating is for getting to know somebody, not their body or yours. That's something that women don't understand. So, if you're attracted to somebody in 5 seconds? Women know, especially in 5 seconds. So, sexual compatibility can be worked on after you have exclusivity, commitment, a relationship, not when you're just dating and getting to know someone. That's going to piss off a lot of loser guys. So, what? Weed them out. And always think to the fact that what would you want your daughter to go through, to have to do? You wouldn't like, even the guys that are like, if she doesn't put out on the first date, dump her. Would they say that about their own kid? Would they expect their daughter to go on a first date even if she doesn't know who this guy is and just put out? Is he insane to expect that of you? So don't listen to what they say when they say that it's perfectly fine and that a good woman will just be overcome with lust, that she won't be able to control herself. Do you want someone who's overcome with lust and not smart enough to control themselves? This is the type of person that would easily cheat, that would easily just be like, my emotions are in control of me. So I'm just going to pick up and leave whenever I feel the emotion. You don't want someone like that. So you want someone who they absolutely may want to, but they have the self discipline and self control. These are very important qualities in people. Let's see. So for dates, my go-to suggestion and what my dad always told me is you don't want someone to take you up in a plane and fly you around somewhere or go someplace where it could be dangerous or go on a freaking yacht, Lord help me. But you do not want to do that because that's putting you in danger. And anytime they take you to a private location, bad things can happen. You don't know this person. They could traffic you. I'm in Miami, so I'm very familiar with the sex trafficking industry and what goes on over here. And I have friends that work directly with victims of it. So there's so many scams. Please do not go on a freaking yacht. I don't care how cool the Instagram photos are. You are putting your life in danger for stupid, superficial reasons. But if you know the risk and you want to take them, do you. But this is probably not going to help you then. And you probably should be listening to me. So, my go to is a public place. There's lots of people around, two separate cars. So you can escape if you need to, and places that are quiet where you can have talks about your values, what you want in life, your past, your history, what you want your future to look like. That's what a date is, because you have to be dating with the intention for marriage and family. If you don't want that, again, this is not for you. But if you want that, you need to right up front be like, okay, so what do you think about if I want to stay home after the kids? What do you think about if your wife lost her job or whatever? Or if you have to have these hard conversations up front and maybe not the first date. Okay, so I have to be specific because some people will just be like, you don't want to be the psychotic person with a list of demands on a date and who's, are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Are you gonna, it's no. The first few dates, try to be fun and just superficial conversations that are just happy and fun. What kind of music do you like? What do you like to do for fun? Things like that. Fun topics, not super serious, super let's nail this down right away topics. But eventually, yes, you do want to have those conversations. Once you know that you like each other in the superficial way, then you're going to go a little bit deeper and deeper with your conversations. I also like a date where you can walk around like a mall or a place where you could people watch and hear what they say about other people. These things are interesting to just to see like where their mindset is at, what they find funny. If someone's dressed crazy, are they going to laugh? Or are they going to think, oh, that's cool? Maybe it's not something a big deal, but it's just to get along with them because most of life is going to be mundane and boring. And it's just going to be you guys hanging out doing very average stuff. Can you guys have fun doing something boring? I'm sure you can have fun if you're having a big dopamine hit doing some adventure, but that's not real love. That's a drug. We'll get to that later. Number 4, being a good man is learned. And this is a sad one because it is beyond your control. So, a close friend's father told me and my friend, growing up, seeing your father treat your mother is the most important thing, especially for a son, because how his father treats his mother is a good indication of how he'll treat his wife. And there's a lot of broken families nowadays, and it's getting harder and harder to find someone from a good, stable family. And people are always going to say, but there's so many messed up families that are together. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you're dating someone and they have a good, stable family, that is such a blessing and such a big green flag because that means they've seen it work. So they can model it so much easier. They don't have to have all that baggage and need to go through years of therapy to or like research on their own and just figure things out. If you're really committed and motivated to figure out how to not do it the same as your parents, yes, you can do that. But that's something the person has to work on before they enter the relationship. And you can tell someone's worked on this when they talk to you about their values and their beliefs. Look, my dad forced my mom to work and he never let her buy new clothes. And she always had the junky car and whatever, all these things, but I'm going to do it differently because I saw how miserable my mom was and I saw how shitty their marriage was. And It affected me as a child, seeing how miserable they were. And when I went to my friend's house and I saw how well the father treated the mother and how happy she was, and in turn, what a happy home she created, and how excited he was to come home to a happy wife. And I'm not saying happy wife, happy life. That's not like a rule, but both people should be happy. And both people need to be happy by getting their needs met. So if the guy is only getting his needs met, that's not a happy marriage. And if the girl is only getting her needs met, that's also not a happy marriage. So it's not either or, and nobody is more important, which is the problem. You can't be thinking anybody's role is more important. They are equal and they are necessary. Example also would be myself. I didn't grow up seeing a good marriage or what a wife was. I grew up with my parents having split up, and there was a lot of fighting, and then a step parent who didn't like me and wanted to get rid of me. And it was just very like a troubled childhood, but I put in the time and I researched my friends' parents that had good relationships. And I just remember just being eager to learn and ask them questions that were very deep for a child. I would say, like, how do you pick a good husband? What makes a good wife? What are some of the things that you think a wife should do? What are some of the things that like a good husband would do? What are your red flags? And I'm talking to older generation, and they're telling me their values, and they also have the stable, healthy, happy relationship that I wanted. For example, I had one friend where every day after dinner, the parents would hold hands and go for a walk around the neighborhood, and he would pick little flowers and put them in her hair. And we're talking about 40, 50 years of marriage. This is a beautiful thing when done correctly. I want that. I don't want the fighting and the animosity and the you don't do enough, you don't contribute enough, no, you don't contribute enough, or blah, blah, blah. My role is important. No, your role is more important, or whatever. I don't want that. I wanted that. It's very calm, happy relationship. That was my ideal, not this buying lots of gifts for each other and making like social media posts, which would be nowadays, not at that time. Like big gestures, big grand gestures of love to make other people feel bad about themselves, when it's really just to like gas up your own ego, but really it's not about the other person. Like, for example, I would see people at parties and the guy would be a complete asshole to his wife, but then for holidays, he would buy her a really expensive gift and present it to her in front of friends and families and his guy friends to make them feel bad that maybe they didn't have the money to do that for their wife or something like that. That's not a good relationship. If you're miserable all the time and then you just give each other expensive gifts to like smooth things over, that's disgusting. I'm not into that. Anyways, the next is the fifth one, how to dress. So, my friend's dad would always say how a wife dresses and takes care of herself is a representation of how much her husband values her and his family. So, if her hair is always dirty, her clothes are old, worn out, they have holes in them, especially in comparison to the man always has everything nice. And I have to go to work. People have to look at me. That attitude, having his wife dress so much worse than he does because he doesn't value her and his family enough to know that she needs to have like a budget for herself to look good, to feel good. And how do I say this? If you are looking good and then making the excuse, well, I have to make the money, I have to look good to the people that I work with, that is just not going to cut it, because what you're saying essentially is I'm more important than my role, and me is more important than my wife and her role and my family. And every time she goes out looking like crap because you won't even get her a nice dress for New Year's and or for your business function, and she's looking ragged, it does not make you look good. The other guys and the other wives are talking about this, and I've heard them. They'll say things like, "Look at this asshole. He like lets his wife dress like she's so sweet, she's so kind, she does everything for him. She cooks, she cleans, she gave him all these beautiful children, and he gave her like this beat up car while he has the fancy Mercedes." It's just, it doesn't make any sense. And you might justify in your mind that you deserve this stuff. But when there's that difference, you can definitely tell like she's going to get scooped up. And I have seen guys try to scoop women up, just very kind, motherly, wonderful wives. And they just end up with these guys that are very narcissistic and self-involved, and they think that the woman doesn't matter, that she should just look like crap. And then they'll have the nerve to say, you don't even dress nice anymore. And it's, you have given me $0 and zero time. You won't even take care of the kid for like an hour or two on the weekend so I can get my hair done, so I can get my nails done. And then you want to compare me to his wife when she has a budget of 2-3 thousand a month, and he like gets her a babysitter twice a month so that she can go get everything taken care of. You cannot compare that. You cannot want a beautiful kept wife if you don't keep her. Anyways, so that's my little thing on that. So dressing nice and dressing classy and feeling good about yourself, and that requires money. Unfortunately, that's the long and short of it. Anyways, then you have the Latin fathers of my friends, and they would give a very different type of advice, which would be more of the, if you're going to show cleavage, don't have a tight or short skirt. So you can have one, but never both. So either like your neckline is up to here and you have a shorter skirt or tighter dress or whatever, or like vice versa, but never both, because that makes you too slutty. And no midriffs, and absolutely no bra straps. That can't be shown. That's a very Latin thing. That's how they differentiate between a classy woman and a trashy woman. So it's like, you don't want to dress like a poor streetwalker. You want to have a little something to entice guys over. And then the Latin strategy is always make them want you because you're so sexy and classy, but don't let them touch you until marriage. This would be like this is not her herself, but imagine a woman that looks like Sofia Vergara, whatever, that type of dress. And then she's also very religious and makes you wait until marriage. That's another strategy, and no judgment, whichever one you want to do. My dad always said that there was a difference. My dad comes from very upper class, whatever, and he was very into the fashion industry. My mom was like very poor or whatever. And the first thing he did when he started dating her was he would take her to fashion shows like Versace or Chanel or whatever, and then meet the designers, and she would pick stuff off the runway and they would have made for her. And some of them would be a little bit tight or revealing. But in my dad's point of view, it was, if it's expensive and classy and art, you don't look like a streetwalker. But if it's cheap fabric and like trashy, and you're not going to like a gala or a big event, you're just wearing it on like a regular errand or whatever to like some shitty restaurant, then that is trashy. But you can have something that's, think of those Met Gala gowns that are like practically transparent and form fitting. If it's art, it's okay in certain situations. So there are some differences. So that's just the opinion of two very different type of guys. All right, so number 6 would be how they get their money matters. And I learned this from watching my parents. So my dad was born into money. He never knew how to make it. He was born into extreme wealth. And when the government got taken over and all of their bank accounts got wiped and their land and properties got taken over by the government, he lost everything and he never learned how to make money. So instead of going out there and making money, he just became depressed and sent my mom to work. And that was the demise of their marriage eventually. So how a guy makes his money is very important. If he knows how to make it, you can't take it away from him. Even if he loses everything, he still knows how to get it back. Family money, or like a gambler, let's say like a Bitcoin billionaire, somebody who makes money that way, or someone who makes money from like a lawsuit, or even illegal methods of gaining the majority of wealth. Let's say he's like a drug runner or something like that. These are not good guys. You don't want to associate them, and you want someone who made it on their own, but legally and with their own hard work and merit. If they earn it, they will value it more. And I have seen wives go to jail because they married someone who got their money in some illegal fashion, or they cheated on their taxes and they end up in jail. So that is just something to think about. All right, number 7, on drugs and alcohol. Now, this is something that my dad was very good at explaining to me, and let's go into it. So he told me that just because most people do it doesn't mean it's okay, and it doesn't mean it's healthy, and it definitely doesn't mean it's safe. So you cannot be different if you act like everyone else. We would watch people a lot. We would people watch, and he would say, "Look around. Most of these people are miserable. Most of these people are unhealthy. Most of these people are not aspirational. So if you do what most people do, you'll never be better than them." And when we watched the movie Clueless, because my dad's super cool, so he would take me to movies on the weekend when I was little. So we watched the movie Clueless, and he pointed out drugs like MJ, if you know what that is. And he would say, "You see the main character, she's happy, she's fun. She only did it when she's at a party already happy and having fun with her close, trusted friends, but never so much that she's out of it, laying on the couch, putting herself in danger." And then he was like, in the beginning, they show like the different categories. Like, I think one of them was a Persian mafia, which was funny. And the burnouts, the stoners, whatever. And he'd be like, "You see the burnout people, like they're losers because they're sad and alone, and it becomes their identity. So the moral there is, if you're going to do it to be happier, never because you're sad, and never so much that you put yourself in a bad situation." And that's the difference between a good time and a problem. And I personally chose never to drink alcohol. Not that I didn't pretend to hold the beer or something in like a photo to make fun, because everybody knows I didn't do it. But like, I don't ruin anybody's fun if they want to drink. It's like, whatever, do you. I'm not going to be a bitch about it. But a lot of guys that turned out to be serious predators had a problem with this on first dates. They would call me boring or whatever. They would try to pressure me into it. Those are just not the guy for you. And when I told my husband I don't drink, he's okay, that's great. And he just never mentioned it again. It's like a no big deal. Also, I would say that for parents in general, modeling is very important. It's not enough just to have the talks about how to live. One good thing was I never saw my parents drunk. A glass of wine at a New Year's party that was like maybe half finished only and left on the table, and then they went for water. But I never saw them super drunk, sloppy, making a mess. Whereas when I would go to a friend's home where the parents were drinking and it was more normalized, I would see the contrast. I would see the dads were fat and swollen and sick looking on the couch, drinking and saying, being loud and trashy. No offense, again, there's just a big push in society right now to be drunk, depressed, slutty, and who just complains about like their trauma all day. And I definitely don't think that's an aspirational thing. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I'm just saying I would not choose that. So, number 8 is there's no such thing as friends. And this is a tough one because it goes for both males and females. And I would tweak this from what my father says to, there's nothing more dangerous than an unhappy friend. Your safe friends, they're already happy. They're in happy marriages. They're happy with their looks. They're not jealous of you or your family or your relationship. Those are the kinds of people that when you tell them something good, they don't try to one up you or put you down. They're just like generally, genuinely happy for you. And these are rare. So if you have 5 in your whole life, you have really made it, I think. And I'm lucky because I have a bunch now. So it's really nice. And these are also, unfortunately, the friends that are too busy to hang out most of the time because they are very happy and they're comfortable at home with their beautiful families. So maybe you don't see them as much, but they're still going to be there for you if something happens. I just remember I have so many beautiful friends that have gorgeous families and relationships. And if I call them and I'm like depressed, like they're going to call me right away and they're just going to listen and just talk me through. And they're always going to be supportive of my relationship and never be toxic and say things. Like, for example, I would never, this is from me, this is not from my dad, this is just me. I would never call a girlfriend and complain about something my husband did unless I knew for a fact that girlfriend loved me and my husband together and was rooting for us 100% with no hidden agenda to separate us so that they can feel better about their shitty life. This is a big one. So, personally, what I do is the only person that I would dare complain to my husband about is my mom, who loves him to death, or his sister, who loves him to death, of course, and loves me with him. And that's it. That's it. There's no one else that I need to be complaining about my relationship to because that's inviting negativity and bad people, and people love misery. Like misery loves company. Okay, so here's a little bit more on why unhappy friends are dangerous. For some more proof, researchers from Brown University, Harvard University, and the University of California at San Diego found that you are 75% more likely to become divorced if a friend has divorced. And if a friend of a friend is divorced, your odds of getting a divorce increase 33%. This is a mind virus. It is contagious. I have seen it firsthand when close friends got divorced. The guy was constantly trying to get my husband to go out to strip clubs and mess around with the girls there. He was consciously trying to break up our marriage to feel better about his falling apart because, again, misery loves company. And I knew exactly what he was doing and exactly what he was going to do because I know people. I've studied people. So I would tell my husband, he's going to do this and he's going to do that. He's going to try to get you drunk, weak, and stupid and then pressure you to mess up. And my husband said, I don't know, let me see. I think he's a good guy. He just needs someone to hang out with because he's depressed. And then my husband, with this in top of mind, goes out with him and sees this is what he's trying to do. He's really adamant about trying to get him as drunk as possible and to do things that a married dude should just not be doing. Anyways, and then he was like, yeah, you were right. And I've been around a lot of unhappy people. I've seen how this goes. And that's also why in Stoicism they say avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. This is to keep yourself and your significant other away from people going through hard times. It might sound cruel, but it's super contagious. And you want to do the best for you and your family. Not saying that you can't go back when things get better for them and hang out with them, but unfortunately, they need to deal with their shit when it's happening. Number 9 would be use your loose and jealous friends to test the loyalty of the guy that you really like. I have not had that many boyfriends because whenever I liked a guy, I would introduce them to my friends, knowing very well that there's one in particular, let's say Marie, and I would call it the Marie test. And this girl I knew was hardcore jealous of me, out of her mind, constantly putting me down and being a fake friend. And I always knew in the back of my mind, this is her nature. My dad had a little saying about people's true natures, but let's not get into that. I would bring the guy that I liked around and then just see if he would fall for her stuff. One in particular, this guy, he was a nerd, he was overweight, he was not a conventionally attractive guy, but I became really close to him. He was my best friend, and she just made fun of him constantly, calling him ugly and a loser, and why am I wasting my time around him? She completely mocked me when I told her I have a crush on him. Then secretly, she wrote a note trashing me to him, and she put it on his pillow when we were hanging out once at a party in his house. And I saw her do that. Of course, I go and I get the note. I still have the note because sometimes it's good for me to look back and see if I ever get nostalgic for so many years. I read that and I go, okay, I don't need to associate with this person. It's a good reminder. Anyways, most guys that I like did fail the Marie test, but it still was a good thing because it kept me from dating a lot of losers. Because a good guy knows if he goes after your friend, you're never going to go after him, because just like there's a bro code, there should be, maybe not so much nowadays, but there was a girl code too, where you do not go after someone that your girlfriend liked or your girlfriend dated or messed around with, I guess would be the equivalent nowadays. So I did find one guy who passed the test, but then I think he was a little bit asexual. So maybe that doesn't count. But he was very quick to be like, oh, she tried. And definitely it was funny when he was sending me all the text messages. My husband did pass a test several times as well. This is a different friend, and she was going through a divorce. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky, at least just when they're going through something. But she started playing footsie with my husband under the table at a dinner. And he said absolutely nothing to me about it, my husband. Then the second that her plane took off, he turned to my mother and I, and he told us what happened. And we both jumped up looking for weapons, and which is exactly why he did not tell us until she was safely away, because he didn't want us to end up in jail or something, because he's a gentleman. it just goes to show you, like, guys have to pass this test. A high value man, if you want to say that, is a guy with self control. If you have no self control, sorry, that's not a good guy. That's not a guy that lives in accordance with morals and values that I find appealing, and that a father would feel appealing for his daughter to be like in association with. So just think of it from the point of view of your father. You do not want your daughter to be with someone who has such little morals, such little self control, that he's just going to jump up on anything that like falls in his lap. Especially when he knows that this is someone who is specifically trying to hurt the love of his life, the woman in his life, his wife, the mother of his children. When you have a guy that is okay with letting you get hurt because of some fleeting floozy that absolutely just wants to hurt your wife, that's not a good guy. I'm sorry. And you guys can disagree all you want. I don't care. That's just how it is. I found a good guy, so you can't tell me they don't exist. And if you want to say whatever, blah, 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 I'm sorry. Maybe you need to have some self control. And I do find that a lot of the guys that don't have self control are because they're not high value, because or they don't come from good, solid families where the families are together, that they care about really good legacy. If you come from a family of divorce and you've seen cheating and you've seen lying, you don't know anything else. And if you haven't done the work, you're just going to think this is normal and you're going to justify it. It's not normal and it's not justifiable. Anyways, moving on. Agree to disagree if you don't agree. Love versus limerence. And this is something my husband was taught and he told me about. And I think it makes a lot of sense because in the back of my mind, that's what I've been alluding to. Because I see so many people thinking they're chasing love, but what they're chasing is limerence. Because lasting love is calm, it's relaxing, right? It's like going home. Limerence is adrenaline, testosterone, dopamine. It's that roller coaster. People who need that, they're not looking for love. They're looking for their next fix, their next high. That's not love. My husband turned down women because they wanted adventures, lavish gifts, grand public gestures, showing off, and so forth. They didn't want love. They wanted to ride a roller coaster. And should the roller coaster ever stop, because life happens and sometimes you need to do other things and you can't just be like worshiping the person you're with the whole time, they get bored and they'll go to the next. It's just fun for a time when you're in limerence, but it's not a place you would want to live. Both my husband and I, we wanted calm, compassionate companionship, and I personally grew up in chaos. So I was looking for something very simple and very safe. And he was looking for stability, a stable home, a safe place, and a healthy environment to raise children for like a good legacy. Leave the world better than you found it. And you can only do that if you raise good people. And you can only do that if you're good people. So that is just my little post on the things that my father and the fathers around me growing up taught me about relationships. And I hope that some of these resonated with you and were helpful for you. And I hope that even if you don't agree with all of them, that you can understand my point of view and just be like respectful of that, as I'm respectful for your point of view. And you don't have to agree with me. But yeah, I love you all and have a great rest of your day or night.